No Data Plan is a road movie, and it documents your journey from LA to New York on the Amtrak. And I wanted to just start off by asking about how this concept came about, essentially, like which came first, kind of the idea for the film or the train ticket.
It was a train ticket, and I had no idea that I was making a film. I just um, I was doing my MFA at Bard, which is in New York, and then I lived in LA. But at the same time, my DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals status, was expired, so I couldn't fly, and I was taking the train across the country. Also, at that time, my phone didn't have a data plan, and I was expecting to have Wi-Fi on the train. I don't know. I just thought that they would have it. They advertised it, but when I got on the train, there was no Wi-Fi, so I had really nothing to do for 3 days, nothing to occupy my time. When I found myself with my camera and kind of using that as a way to occupy my time by just whether filming out the window or just filming, I don't know, a dirty glass or a seat or anything
Mm.
that perpetually would just keep me occupied. Um, I didn't, throughout making this, I didn't know that I was making a film. I thought it's very, it's part of my practice is kind of one that's diaristic and one that just sort of observes where I happen to be at,
Mm.
whether taking walks in LA or so I just thought that I was collecting footage and that it wouldn't be a standalone film.
So yeah,
But
then it kind of became this self-contained thing because there's really a narrative build, especially towards the end when you get that climactic moment with the border patrol. So
yeah,
it
that
does
was
seem
kind
to.
of the moment when or afterwards where it kind of for me um, where I was able to make the connection between me moving through the space and the camera also and the sort of camera language, the cinematographic camera language that comes with me having this sort of precarious state in America. And
Yeah,
when I was,
so I wanted to ask you about the link between, being someone who's operating a camera on a train and having that precarious status where you obviously, if part of your practice is sort of like observational diaristic, I'm sure you look comfortable carrying a camera around and filming things, but in that confined space, were you nervous at all about, I mean, a lot of people don't like to be filmed or have the sense that there's filming going on around them. Were you at all nervous that you would attract some kind of unwanted attention, especially as an undocumented person traveling without, the official documentation?
yeah, I think no matter where I am, I'm always a bit nervous about, I don't know, I'm always kind of cautious about where I'm filming and and who might not want to be filmed or calling attention to myself while filming. But actually, I did this train ride twice, and then what I gathered is that from what my experiences of having a camera, um, people take me as a tourist or something. One man, um, one man was like, "Why are you taking so many pictures? Are you taking them back to China?" I was like, okay. Like another person was like, "Welcome to America," and I said,
Americans
okay.
love that. They love to,
I totally love that. Very cliche, but
like, oh,
um,
you're from somewhere else, clearly. How exciting.
yeah. So I kind of took it like, okay, yeah, I totally come off as a tourist,
Mm,
and maybe this works for me,
yeah.
or in a sense that for me observing in this sort of way, it works to my advantage to be seen as a tourist. But
Yeah.
actually, my strategy is typically to just kind of take really long shots, like no less than a minute, and then it just sort of let scenes unfold. So I'm kind of just like in a corner somewhere, and I'm just like observing like a empty space, and a lot of times people cross into it, or like start to inhabit that space, and then or just some sort of movement, or something surprising might happen, whether it be people or like things happening outside of the train. Like there's
Yeah.
this one side of the just a seat, like the blue leather of the seat.
Oh, that was a great shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at first it was going to be a completely boring shot of just the texture of the seat, and then all of a sudden another train passed by, and it just just came alive.
Yeah, there's
Became,
this light show that suddenly happens on
yeah,
that vinyl.
yeah.
Speaking of other trains going by, and to talk a little about the structure of the movie, so you have a lot of shots of like out the back of the train with the landscape sort of receding into the background, and a lot of shots of other trains going in the opposite direction. And then also just the trajectory of the film itself. You're traveling from the west to the east, which is kind of in like the opposite of the classic road trip trajectory. So I wondered if you could speak to those sort of formal structural decisions that you made.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't decisions, I think. There was just happened to be where I was going.
Oh
And
yeah, true.
but yeah, I mean, a lot of these kind of novels or stories of going from east to west did influence me, like Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Um, and I don't know, and I suppose that's sort of like the like common story, but then I'm from the West Coast. Like my family and I immigrated from the Philippines to California. And then so that was kind of like our origin. It's a different narrative than the East to West because we're coming from the Pacific. I think perhaps just the perspective of like that migration kind of creates a different directionality of
Yeah,
of that cross country trip.
yeah, totally. And to speak a little bit about your family as well, or at least the idea of these sort of two narratives that run through the movie, because there's the journey that you're taking itself, and then there's also this story about your mom and an affair that she is having, or affair that she had. And the narration is predominantly via text. And I wondered about that decision as well.
Yeah, actually, so I think a lot of material that I work with ends up getting pulled together. Like I was writing these this story as text and not knowing where if or where it would go. It was just writing about experiencing my mother's affair. And this film came together, and I don't know, maybe they just got pulled together, but actually I just had this text on hand, and I wanted to put some sort of narrative over the train. And then I was thinking like, okay, like I was using the text as placeholder for what might become another
Right.
voiceover.
Okay.
So I would just put it there like, okay, like placeholder text, but I'd use my this story as placeholder text for what I'll write later. But I never wrote it. I was just like, okay, like the longer I would edit, the more it would just sit there, and then it would just be there. And then I was like, okay, like, well, I like this story, and it sort of parallels. At some point I'm going to record a voiceover for this. This is now place the story, but placeholder for where I'll record voiceover. But I also never did that, or I tried, but I actually like the train sounds a lot more. So it stayed as these subtitles with as voiceover, but no voice.
Yeah, I
As
think it's great. A voiceless voiceover.
mhm, a translation. I don't know,
Yeah.
like a subtitle.
Yeah, it creates this like other track. the sense of like multiple tracks running through the movie. Um, and yeah, so to speak a little bit just about that sort of moment at the end, or the sequence at the end involving Border Patrol, and we do hear you, and you're on the phone talking to a friend about what you've just experienced, and you're also showing your Instagram stories to the camera at the same time, of sort of like, what do I do? What do I say if I'm asked questions? And I was wondering, like, were friends, obviously friends were messaging, but were you getting advice? And if, like, generally social media's impact, the rise of social media and its impact on how you would communicate with friends or family members. I mean, obviously the title of the film and the premise of the film is that, you know, for immigration stuff, you talk to your mom on the no data plan phone. So whether social media has been like a useful tool trying to like survive in precarious circumstances, or whether it's just another form of surveillance.
Yeah. Well, actually, this just came back to me, and this might be the first time I'm remembering this, but during those, right before the 3-day train ride,
Mm.
I had posted something on Instagram because I did this gig where I filmed, like I was doing the sort of experimental VHS footage for a Christina Aguilera music video.
Yes, yes. So
So
good.
like I posted that right before I got on the train, and then I had no data for like for 3 days or whatever. And then so like after I got to Chicago, like I was just bombarded with all of I don't know, responses for that post or
Mm.
whatever. And then shortly after Chicago, when I was going through this border patrol ordeal, I storied the whole um, thing with border patrol. So I was getting the most like polar, like
Yeah.
crazy messages of like, congratulations, are you okay? Like, like, oh
That's
my
so
God,
intense.
Christina Aguilera, like,
Border
are you
Patrol.
border patrol?
Christina
And
Aguilera Patrol.
the music video, the song is called Accelerate.
Oh, you should have seen if Christina would have given you the rights to put it on the on the film.
But it was very surreal, that moment. And then yeah, I mean, I do think about it like it being public at that moment of posting that kind of thing. And then it's something, I mean, you know, I was an undocumented filmmaker in the States, and I'm making films, and it's visible. And whether it be like on Instagram or it
Mm.
be publicized, a publicized screening, it's making visible my situation, and it's both has its pros and cons of it has its risks, but also its rewards,
Yeah.
and its visibility.
Well, yeah, I think there's almost like there's something paradoxical about the idea of documenting the undocumented, which has been like a major through line of your work and of your practice. And I wondered if there had been repercussions, or even just, you know, you mentioned that there's pros and cons, and like, what, you know, obviously you feel drawn and compelled to do this, but also there'd be anxiety around it. And yeah, have there been, what was kind of like the decision making process, and like, okay, no, I'm going to do this and like make this a thematic? Do I have no choice, or like, yeah, am I afraid, or
Hmm. Yeah, in a sense, I suppose, like I don't know, I see film, or for myself, as a way to sort of intervene in the situation when one is undocumented, and then like you don't have that many rights. How could I use film to sort of like transgress or navigate this bordered situation?
mm,
um so I also use film, I think, making personal diaristic film as part of my decision making process in life. And so my like filmmaking process is part of me just coming to terms, or like grappling with the situation. And then like towards the end of the movie, I had decided to leave the country, and that was a thought that I had in the train. And a year later, I did leave the country and moved back to the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Yeah, I
And
wanted
then
to ask about that.
yeah, so I left, and then now I'm living in Mexico City. Um, yeah, so. I think like making films and in the States, and or like it's just part of my process of um of thinking, I suppose.
Yeah, so do you, like you just mentioned, just to clarify, like you first had the thought of leaving the States on that train trip? Or would that have been something you were toying with for years and it just kind of came to the fore more because you were having to, like, you were making a film about the precarity of the situation and sort of like, oh wait, hang on.
Yeah, I mean, I was toying with it for years, like, oh, I'd like to do that, I'd like to travel with my films. But then after the run in with Border Patrol that time, I think just right after, I was
Mm.
kind of like, fuck this, I don't need this anymore. Like, I'm going to put in the motions. I'm going to put this plan into motion, and I'm going to set a year from the.
Accelerate.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Sorry.
That's accelerate it. Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of made the game plan and then about a year later,
Yeah.
yeah. Was it a difficult, I mean, obviously it would have been a difficult decision, but also because as I understand it, you flew back to Manila, where you're from, where you had left at, like, as a young child with your family. Did that feel like coming home? I mean, it would have been like a very alien experience of coming home, I imagine.
Yeah, totally alien and foreign to me.
Mm.
And sort of was had to grapple with the idea or differences of whether I was a expat or exile, or just
Mm.
coming, just grappling with these terms, and or what, or and had to constantly kind of explain uh, what I was, if I don't know, didn't seem to be Filipino, or like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think there's a strange, like, if you've moved around, or yeah, you are like an American, I imagine, culturally, for all intents and purposes, or for many intents and purposes, but still always will have this intractable connection to the Philippines. But going home, it's still like, I haven't ever like lived here as an adult. And
Right. The last time I was there was when I was 5.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I had have like a really amazing film community there.
Mm.
So I think the arts and film community is great, and I felt home in that sense
Yeah,
within
that's crucial.
the community of artists, I think. But I think I feel that way with in any place in the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's global, the arts community. But do you keep it, obviously, like your family would still be in the States, or
Yeah, they're still
yeah.
in the States.
So were they grumpy with your decision, or
And I think they supported my decision, and since then I think they're happy to see me kind of thriving outside of the States.
mm,
I felt really limited in the States.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of a choice between the States or everything else, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, even within the sort of cultural institutional world in the States is very limiting to be like an undocumented immigrant, and
Mm,
a lot of them requiring some sort of residency or citizenship to, say, be able to get cultural funding. So to I don't know, a lot of my work has just been self-funded or super like zero budget
mm.
because of that purpose. But once I left the States, I was able to get more grants.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, yeah, like what I was going to ask, how being outside of the States has kind of affected your filmmaking practice, but access to more grants and more funding is a definite, I imagine, a big one. But yeah, thematically, or how has that impacted on your work, or are you working on something right now, or have you been working on something, or do you have other things besides filmmaking on your mind right now?
Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, I think I'm kind of continuing the project of making these sort of diaristic films, and then so I'm working on my second feature, which was supposed to be about sort of returning back to the Philippines and I don't know, just parsing through this sort of fraught notion of home. Um, the title is called Nowhere Near, and I'm still working on
Mm.
it. And I don't know, life has kind of just led me to be in Mexico now, and which has been a is interesting turn of events, which is also sort of like part of the film. And then it's interesting to kind of have now this like triangulation of
Mm.
locations from the U.S. to the Philippines and Mexico, and all of these, and sort of yeah, just I suppose it's like a travel movie again, but just going through these new migrations, and yeah, I can't speak too much about it, not because like I don't want to reveal too much. It's because I don't know what I'm doing.
It's unfolding.
Yeah, it's still unfolding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of us don't know what we're doing right now. So maybe on that note, no, Nowhere Near sounds exciting. And I hope that, well, this is obviously being pre recorded, but when it plays, I hope that everyone watching will have enjoyed No Doubt a Plan. And Miko, I might leave you. Thanks so much
Thank you
for,
so much, and thanks everyone for seeing the film. Thank you for having me for this Q&A too.
yeah, this has been a pleasure. And I'm sure everyone watching feels the same. All right. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. Everyone, take care.
Bye.
Ciao.